Howdy peeps, Mellow Magog here, back again with the actual Magog who is Mellow. This is my main. He is a Brewmaster monk. He has been my main ever since monks came out. I feel like this is obviously the tune I know the most of. Most of it I actually had to go over and be like, okay, why do I do this again? Just because I have been playing this tune for so long, so much of it is just muscle memory and back of the head knowledge of stuff that I had to learn years and years and years ago. So, but freshened up on the actual math behind it a bit so I could give y'all a good video here. It seems like my WoW videos have been doing better than my Let's Plays of various games, Crashlands and Resident Evil 2 Remake most recently. So I might make a few more WoW videos here before going back to some of them. So here's what we will do. So let's go at talents first, is how we've been doing this. And let me pull up my little cheat sheet here. So 15 row is heals, basically heals and damage. I take Eye of the Tiger. This does a dot and a leech, basically, for the exact same amount. Excuse me. This is only ever on one target, which it's not very clear in the description here. But it's only ever one target. If you try to tab target it and then make it work better, it doesn't work that way, which would be nice, because that would add some little gameplay elements, but unfortunately that is not the case. One target only. Chi Wave I like a lot on Windwalker because it flows very good. It's a 15-second cooldown. Because Windwalker's mastery is don't hit the same button twice in a row, and this gives you an option to not hit the same button twice in a row, which is only two things you could ever hit twice in a row because everything else is on cooldowns. But I'm getting off topic here. For Brewmaster, it is not that good because it eats up GCDs, and Brewmaster is pretty much GCD capped. I think my APM during raids is usually in the low to mid 60s, so that's low to mid 60 buttons per minute. So if the GCD is 1 second, I'm hitting probably 55 of the 60 GCDs, and then 6, 8, 10 things not on GCDs, these brews here. But I'm kind of getting off topic here as well. I do not really recommend this for brew, and then same with Chi Burst. Chi Burst is really good for Mistweaver, I believe. I know Prajnatara, my wife's character is Prajnatara. She uses Chi Burst a lot, and I feel that is kind of the Eye of the Tiger is the Brew one, the Chi Wave is the Windwalker one, and the Chi Burst is the Mistweaver one. At least that's how I kind of differentiate them in my head. Tier 2 is your movement. This is very your own opinion. I generally kind of treat this as by spec as well. Chi Torpedo is usually my default. Chi Torpedo is kind of like the old Momentum. They just kind of gave it a different look. Chi Torpedo used to be something that all the Mistweavers took because it did special stuff, but they kind of renamed Momentum Chi Torpedo and gave it that animation as opposed to the roll animation. I think its roll is normally 20 seconds. I could be wrong on that. Whatever. Yeah, I think roll is normally 20. So it just gives you your rolls, I think, slightly extra distance, and it increases your movement speed by 30% for 10 seconds. This stacks. So if you do 9.8 seconds, and then you hit your next Chi Torpedo, you've got 60%. For that next 10 seconds, which is very useful eating up distance. We use this a lot when we're running back from a wipe, and it's usually me and Praj and maybe the warrior with charges and leaps, and maybe one of the demon hunters. It's not the only useful thing if you just have a really long way to run for certain bosses. I can't think of the one off the top of my head, but anytime you really have to get from point A to point B really, really fast, and it's longer than the distance of just one roll. That is kind of going to be your bread and butter. Tiger's Lust sort of fills that role as well. It's a 30-second cooldown, so if you're only going to be doing that double roll once every 20 seconds, 25, depending on, because it's 20 seconds per charge. So actually to get both back is 40 seconds, but if you're only doing one, it's 20. Tiger's Lust is a 30 seconds and a 70% for 6. So this would be, if you back-to-back them, 9.5 seconds at 30 and then 10 seconds at 60 versus, and that'd be over 40 seconds, versus 70% for 6. So this is going to get you longer distance in the long run, or this is going to get you longer distance in the short run. Like if you absolutely have to be on the other side of the room, right meow, that might be better for you. I get told this is often used in PvP a lot as well because it removes the roots and the snares. Although, for PvP, I really prefer... Where is it in here? This one, I think. Nizao's Essence removes all snares off of you. It doesn't remove roots, but this kind of makes this less needed. I mean, you could obviously take this and not take this. I mean, I don't have it set up right now, but I think I'm set up for, like, weird stuff in PvP. I don't PvP that much. Oz Brew. And then celery. We'll just call it celery because I'm going to mangle it anyways. Celery reduces your cooldown by 5, so it's a 15-second when you get 3 charges. I use this on like one of my Lobby Windwalkers just for kind of changing it up, but I usually take G Torpedo. 45 tier. Spitfire is sort of like a bastardized version of the old Legendary Chest. Legendary Chest was Keg Smash, reset the cooldown on Breath of Fire. This is Tiger Palm has a 25% chance to reset the cooldown on Breath of Fire. Breath of Fire is your like debuff that does damage, but it also reduces your damage dealt by the targets against you for 12 seconds. It's a 15-second cooldown. So this is going to be up, what is that, like 80% of the time? 4 out of 5 seconds, 12 out of 15. So all that Spitfire does is it has a 25% chance of resetting, so you could get 100% uptime on this, and you get a little extra damage out of that too. But I feel like that extra 20% coverage of the, what is it, a 5% reduced damage, is not going to be nearly as powerful as Light Brewing or Black Ox Brew, excuse me. I remember people having arguments about Light Brewing and Black Ox Brew back last expansion, and I actually got kind of in trouble for messing up some math, despite everyone else messing up tons of math on a forum, and I just got so sick of the theory crafting for the schmucks that I stopped doing it, because it's like I could prove and show XYZ is better than ABC, but then, oh, I made one math error, and people just flipped their shit, so whatever. I like Light Brewing because it reduces the cooldowns, so these regenerate faster. These are affected by haste, by the way. You get them back faster, and you get one more. So you've got 4 instead of 3, and they're regenerating. I think it's like, it might be 12 minus haste. I have very little haste. Haste is your worst stat, by the way. I think the only haste I have is from, let's see, 618 is from the neck, and then maybe like one other piece here somewhere. The ring, yeah, that I always forget to use. I might, if I had a better ring, I'd swap that out. Karn and I will often Wonder Twin power the rings. So, Black Ox Brew, not Blackout Brew. Black Ox Brew is a 2-minute cooldown. It resets all of your brews, not Fort Brew, but all of your short-term cooldown brews, so Purifying and Iron Skin. It also instantly refills your energy. So this is, I think, the math on these is very close. If the fight ends exactly at like 2 minutes 15 seconds, 4 minutes 15 seconds, 6 minutes 15 seconds, I think Black Ox Brew wins on the technical front, and this is not a technically correct, the best kind of correct thing, because I feel like light brewing makes your rotation smoother. If you screw up somehow and you get into a bad spot, them cooling down faster is going to get you back into safety faster. Whereas, say you take Black Ox Brew, you get into a bad situation and you've got 50 seconds until this is up, you might be dead before that comes up. Whereas if you can survive 12 more seconds and get one more stack, or if you can survive 20 more and get two more, that might get you safer sooner, if that makes sense. I feel this just feels better, but there is nothing wrong with this. Just know that its utility is kind of like heavily dependent on fight length, let's say. Level 60 tier, I don't think there is anything wrong with any of these three. These are all your kind of your CCs. Tiger Tail Sweep, every Brewmaster gets Leg Sweep for free now. Previously you had to do talent for it. Reduces the cooldown by 10 seconds, increases the range by 2 yards. It's sort of like, this is the one I take the least. I generally bounce between Black Ox Statue and Ring of Peace. The Brewmaster community calls the Black Ox Statue Dave, which is kind of weird because 3 years ago I got a new job and my boss is Dave, so it's kind of weird when I refer to it as Dave sometimes because I kind of get that like cognitive dissonance. But Ring of Peace I used to call Ring of GTFO because it used to do stuff kind of differently. It used to silence and stuff people in it, now it just pushes them out of it. This is very useful, especially in like Mythic Pluses, where it's like, I really need to not get hit for 5 seconds. You can plop it on the ground right under you and just hit off a couple of Vivifies and kind of let yourself and the healer stabilize you for those 5 seconds, because things won't be able to hit you unless they're like hunters or casters kind of mobs. And then Black Ox Statue, man. Again, also known as Dave. If you taunt the statue, it acts as an AoE taunt, which I think is unique. I don't think any other tank has AoE taunts anymore, so that is a nice thing. It has a pretty good threat. It will pull off of you. If you're just keg smashing things, it will not pull enough threat to pull off of you on your primary target, but it definitely can pull off of you on your secondary targets if you are not kind of overgeared. The only thing this stacks with is your stamina, though, so his health is based entirely on your stamina and nothing else. Level 75 tier. I take Bob and Weave. Bob and Weave is like the old legendary ring, where it increases the duration of stagger, so your stagger is now 13 seconds instead of 10. What that means effectively is that each tick is now hitting for 30% less because it is spread out over 30% more time. So this is all about smoothing damage. Healers love smooth damage because they can use their slower, more efficient heals on you. Healers hate spike. Spike makes them panic and use their faster, more expensive heals. So Brewmaster, the name of the game, is all about smooth as butter. So that's why I like to take Bob and Weave. Healing Elixir, I think Brewmaster used to get Healing Elixir for free, either that or it was like the only good option on the tier. That is no longer the case. Healing Elixir is not really that good anymore. It's only 15% of your max health. I believe it used to be 30. So I think this is usually not recommended at all, because I feel like 15% of your health, you can just kind of like Vivify yourself twice and you've almost got that. Maybe 3 times. And then Dampen Harm. I believe this got nerfed as well since the last expansion or so. It is not a bad choice if you need more cooldowns, like if you know there's certain stuff that either Fort Brew or Zen Meditation cannot take account of. If you just have to have a third cooldown, this is what you would take. But I feel like Bob and Weave is the default, Dampen Harm is the exception, Healing Elixir is just don't bother. Level 90 tier, Rushing Jade Wind fits in our GCs very well. Kind of for the opposite reason I said don't take Chi Wave. Rushing Jade Wind, since it's a much shorter cooldown, I think it's 6 seconds minus haste. it fits into your dead spots a lot better. Whereas you can get 3 Rushing Jade Winds off in the time that, or 2 and almost 3, in the time you get 1 Chi Wave off. Since this is a much shorter cooldown, you get it off more frequently and it fills those dead spaces. It lasts for, I think, 8 seconds plus haste. So you're actually probably going to be refreshing it if you're hitting it on cooldown, but that just leaves you those 3 seconds of wiggle room, or 2 seconds, probably baseline of wiggle room. But it's really, really good, because it's also passive AoE. If mobs are running in and spawning on whatever, it's nice to get aggro on them. I would love to be able to take Invoke Nizao, the Black Ox, but I just can't because this is so good. If I cared more on any fight without ads, I might try to take this if the damage was really needed, but then my rotation just feels empty missing this. Like, this is just so much part of my muscle memory now that despite how cool Nizao is, I can't take him. And then special delivery is every time you Iron Skin or Purify, you throw a brew up in the air, it does a big slow to them, but I feel like it's kind of, I don't know if it's random where it comes down or not. It's been buggy in the past, and it didn't used to be 100%, and I've just avoided it for a long time because this is so good at filling your GCDs. Level 100 tier. Blackout combo used to be what all of, I feel, the tryhard Brewmasters used to take. It got nerfed substantially this expansion from last. The bonus to Tiger Palm used to be 300%, and I feel like that's what all of the people were like, oh my godding about. I could not stand the playstyle. If you like it, great. I'm not going to provide any weakors for it because I just can't stand it. And I remember seeing on the forums back last expansion people asking for this to be made baseline, and I'm like, oh geez, please don't, because you're going to ruin my class and spec. So I'm glad it's still a talent. I'm glad it's a bad talent now because people stopped commenting about it so much. But yeah, this is more gimmicky now than anything. They gave us back guard, but they nerfed it to crap. I was so excited when they gave it back to us because I remember having like 1.5 million guards in like Hellfire Citadel, and it was wonderful, but it's been nerfed all to heck. I generally just always take High Tolerance. High Tolerance is passive haste. Haste is our worst stat, but you, like I said, you want a little bit of it just to kind of make your rotation flow a little smoother, and this gives you haste without actually having to get haste on your gear as well. So like I said, the only 2 pieces I have haste on is a ring I would rather get rid of because I forget to use it. It's proc half the time, and the neck. Every other piece I don't have haste on. If I could have 0 haste, I'd be in hog heaven or whatever. But this also gives you some extra stagger and some extra haste. Alright, that's a lot of talking. Like I said, I am most familiar with this, so I have lots of opinions and lots of knowledge. Let's go hit on a target dummy for a bit and show some weak auras. Let's pull them up real quick first. Alright, so I've got... Here, let's turn them all on so they'll stay on. Brew charges, this one here. So this shows you how many charges of your brews you have. Your Iron Skin brew and your Purifying brew share charges. I'm just showing the Iron Skin icon here because that's the one you use the most. You should always have 100% uptime on Iron Skin brew. This, without Iron Skin brew, you are a rogue tanking with like a little bit of like defensives just because stagger is more baseline than it used to be. Iron Skin brew is no longer a set number like it used to be. It used to be 45%, 50%, whatever. Now it's like some weird, like, based on your stats stuff. So it's not as bad as it used to be without... There used to be a... Let me heal up. I have a... Not heal up, repair up. I have a lot of... Oh, come on. There we go.
I have many lucky doos to use.
I have a lot of memories of back when monks first came out. The difference between a good brewmaster and a bad brewmaster was super evident because of how dependent you were on your debuffs and your buffs and all that stuff. So number of brew charges, right there. This here is your mastery. So this is, how's the best way to explain this? Your mastery as Brewmaster is basically for every time you get hit, you get your mastery in dodge, and then that goes away the next time you dodge. So what this makes it so that it is impossible to get hit X number of times in a row, where X is like 104.5 minus your dodge, minus your mastery, plus your mastery, plus your mastery, whatever, how many times that is. So there are breakpoints for this. The breakpoints aren't that necessary, it's just mastery in between breakpoints is less valuable than otherwise, but it's not so less valuable that it's worth not taking. So it's basically anytime you take a hit, you get a stack. Anytime you dodge a hit, you lose all your stacks, and they accumulate. There are things that give you stacks of this as well, and those are some of these Azurite traits, like sometimes Breath of Fire can give you a stack, Tiger Palm can give you a stack, so it's not just getting hit in the face, it's also there are ways. And what this shows is your current total dodge chance. So if this ever gets 100%, or technically against raid bosses 104.5, you are going to dodge the next melee hit. This is the health. I always have a health bar on my tank so I can watch it. This and this, they overlap. So this is how much time you have on Iron Skin Brew. And I'll clean up these names. I mean, some of these weak auras I've had forever, like Health 2, Iron Skin, like Elusive Brawler, Buffing Player. I'll change these names before I post them as paste bin stuff. This is how much time you have on Iron Skin Brew. Iron Skin Brew is capped at, I believe, 3 times the durations, or maybe it's 4. There's a cap on it. We can check it real quick here once we get into combat. So you never want this to cap out, because that means you've effectively wasted time. But this shows you as it is counting down when you need more. This one that is kind of blinking red underneath there is if you do not have any at all. So it's like, oh my god, you're in combat, you don't have any Iron Skin Brew up, what are you doing? This is my stagger bar. I will not take credit for this. I got it years ago from probably, oh, I can't remember the name now. Oh, that's gonna bug me. I'm sorry, whoever this was. It was the website. She was a big Brewmaster theory crafter and weak aura maker. She does a lot of the tanks. Oh, it's gonna bug me now that I can't remember her name. If it comes to me, I'll put it somewhere, but this basically will go higher. It'll be like green, and then yellow, and then red, showing your stagger, and it'll show the percent here is how much of your current health you are taking on your stagger bar. So 100% on that number is you are taking 100% of your health over the next 10 or 13 seconds with Bob and Weave. And that updates dynamically all the time. This little thing, Nizao, is the essence here. Vision of Perfection for the neck. This just shows you when Nizao is procced. I don't know if I'll add this or not to the paste bin. This is just, I like to see it, so I could line up like a potion if I really felt like it. But I probably won't add that in, because it's not going to be relevant for very much longer. Alright, so let's get on a target dummy and start looking at this stuff. Alright, let's see. Yep, it looks like it capped out at 21 seconds. So that is 3. So if it caps out at 21, it means you never really want to reapply it until it is less than 14. Man, I'm gonna have to get a lot of stacks on this guy before he actually starts showing me much stagger. So this is all pretty easy stuff here. There used to be, you know, it's a blank spot here. That's where healing elixirs used to be on my setup, but like I said, healing elixirs has been nerfed, and so the spot really isn't there anymore, since it is not worth taking in almost any circumstance. Another thing that probably should be mentioned is that both Keg Smash and Tiger Palm, see I just capped Bruise there because I wasn't paying attention. Both Keg Smash and Tiger Palm reduce the cooldown of your Bruise. So watch when this, here let me use up a few Bruise. And let me just get down to 0. Alright, so watch when I Keg Smash here. See how it jumped, like the little clock sweep? I believe Keg Smash takes off 4 seconds, yep, and Tiger Palm takes off 1. That is all of your brews, so that is Iron Skin and Purifying Brew because they share cooldown, but it is also Fort Brew. So Fort Brew I think is a 7-minute cooldown. It's 5.5 for me right now because I think of that Nizao essence. It is a 7-minute cooldown, but it's not really a 7-minute cooldown because since it is a brew, it gets reduced by Keg Smash and Tiger Palm as well, so it ends up being more in line with the other tank cooldowns. You see the elusive brawler here? That was showing my dodge. So you can tell whenever I dodge because it goes away. And you can tell whenever I get hit because it'll jump up. Or I've used one of those things, like I said, some of the times that, I think it's Azurite traits and whatnot. Tiger Palm and Breath of Fire can give you extra. And this guy really is not going to show the stagger much. You see how I've got like 14 there? He's up to... I could have gone to the more current contact training dummies and shown this a lot better, but I'm a monk. I'm gonna go to the monk order hall, right? Like, that's the shtick. Alright, let's get away from this guy. And I was obviously playing pretty terribly there, because I'm trying to talk and think as I'm doing all this. There was a couple times where I'm just like waiting on stuff. Your priority is always Keg Smash, Breath of Fire. You want to try to use Blackout Strike on cooldown. It's a 3-second cooldown, so it's usually like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, where Blackout is every third. Your GCD as a Brewmaster is 1 second because you're an Agility class. So, like, say, Keg Smash, Breath of Fire, Blackout Strike, Tiger Palm, Rushing Jade Wind, Blackout Strike, that kind of thing. Tiger Palms you use to get to prevent your energy from capping, but you always want to have the 40 energy available for Keg Smash. You keep your Iron Skin Brew up. If you ever get into dangerous stagger amounts, use Purifying Brew. If you use Purifying Brew too often, though, you will run out of brews and you won't be able to keep Iron Skin Brew up. The only time you should really Purifying Brew is if your healer is having a hard time stabilizing you, which is why you have the health bar up. You can kind of keep a track of like how, if you're staying in a range here versus like you start spiking like this, that might be a time to Purifying Brew. You don't necessarily have to Purifying Brew every time you get to red. Red just means I think you're taking 66% of your health or more a second, or over 10 seconds or 13 seconds. That is more of a feeling type thing. And your defensives, as I said before, are Fort Brew and Zen Med. Zen Med is 60% for 8 seconds, but if you get hit with a melee attack, it cancels. So it's good for taking like a big nuke, or like, oh my god, I've got 10 stacks, I can't survive the 11th because the other tank died. Let me try to Zen Med the hit while Battle Res is coming off cooldown. Stuff like that. Your interrupt is Spearhand Strike, your only heal is Vivify. You got Dave, you got your Leg Sweep, your Porcupine. as your CC. Transcendence, all sorts of shenanigans you can get into with that. It's very useful. It's a skill that I think a lot of monks forget about. And that will probably be it. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know. I will try to get another class and or spec made up soon. Later, peeps.